Well, hello, BookTube. Alan here, and I'm thinking about my badass poetry video that I'm going to do, and I think I can start it now. Poems I need to look I'm up. Waiting for the poem titled "Ilk," or "My Kind of Ilk," but this will definitely do as a starter. You know, I love Yeats, love Dylan Thomas. And I'm going to introduce you guys to Norman Doobie. He's been around forever. He's still alive last time I checked, teaching at Arizona State University. He's a mentor of mine, and there's a lot of poems. He's a Norton poet, meaning he's in Norton Anthology. And he's known for his narrative, historic poems. He dedicated a poem to me. Let me find it. I'll read this diatribe of the kite. Homage to Philip K. Dick is great. I mean, they're all great. But let me just read, The Blue Hog is great. I think I have some bookmarked. Yeah, this is dedicated to me. Because I've never read Moby Dick, as I've said. I'm a Joycean. So this is his haha. Of Politics and Art for Alan. Here on the farthest point of the peninsula, the winter storm off the Atlantic shook the schoolhouse. Mrs. Whittemore, dying of tuberculosis, said it would be after dark before the snowplow and bus would reach us. She read to us from Melville. How in an almost calamitous moment of sea hunting, some men in an open boat suddenly found themselves at the still and protected center of a great herd of whales, where all the females floated on their sides while their young nursed there. The cold, frightened whalers just stared until what they allowed was the ecstatic lapidary pond of a nursing cow's one visible eyeball, and they were at peace with themselves. Today I listened to a woman say that Melville might be taught in the next decade. Another woman asked, why not? The first responded, because there are no women in his one novel. And Mrs. Whittemore was now reading from the Psalms, coughing into her handkerchief. Snow above the windows. There was a blue light on her face, breasts, and arms. Sometimes a whole civilization can be dying peacefully in one young woman in a small heated room with 30 children, wrapped, confident, and listening to the pure God-rendering voice of a storm. See what else. I want to read the A to Z poem too, but this is a good one. Homage to Philip K. Dick for Paul Cook. Paul Cook is a science fiction writer and a teacher, long-time teacher at Arizona State University. I think he's still there. Homage to Philip K. Dick. The illegal ditch riders of the previous night will deliver ice today. The barbers up in the trees are Chinese. They climb with bright cleats, bearing machetes. It's a season of low self-esteem for palm dates on the street. My visitor was at the door yesterday in a blue sheer of a sucker suit, an I like Ike button on the lapel, holding a cup of sawdust. He breathed through his eyes, crusted with pollen. I was not confused. It was God, come to straighten my thoughts. Whole celestial vacuums in the trunk of his pick Studebaker. He would smoke and cough. I sat very still, almost at peace with myself. He had shot a deer in the mountains. He thought last year's winter kill was worse than usual. I told him I didn't know about guns. Something forming on his forehead, a gloriole of splattered sun over snow. We drank our lemonade in silence. He asked if he could go. He joked about his wife's tuna casserole. As a gift, I signed for him my last paperback. He left a book of matches. I'll not enroll in the correspondence course it offers for commercial artists. What a relief that the barbers in the trees are Chinese. Green fronds are dropping in 2s and 3s around the bungalow. Lessons in the etiquette of diseased parrots. Bill Cody said it first. If there is no God, then I am his prophet. Stop it. Please stop it. There's a particular poem I want to read, and yeah, this is it. I could read Norman Dubie all day, but this is an unusual poem for him. So I'll just pick 3 poems of each. It's going to be like an hour-long video. After Sky X. Sky X, in disbelief, agrees that this alphabet of mysteries was one day to reach him. He was said, in a foolish legend of weather, to be a husband of language, like sudden lightning revealing the bare branches of a tree. A complacency of owls in that same tree climbs the night sky, which is Z. The revolving eyes of these owls, like the changing aureoles of a woman's breasts, guttering now into eternity. Z establishes a rainbow of needs, which is the only breach in eternity. He is searching for Sky A, who, in a discretion of letters substituting for lovers, forgets the origin of rain and alphabets, forgets that Z is soon to forsake her, not with the braille points of rising skin encircling the dark nipples of her breasts, but in the language of the deaf, for a signing of hands which begs that none of this be said. The time for one more. Fever was for his second wife, Janine. Looking up from 2 Renaissance paintings to the massacre at Tiananmen Square. Let me take a drink. Fruit flies lift off the bowl of brown pears. The volume of the television is turned down. If you watch Christ raise Lazarus from the dead, you will observe that he is always on wind of him. The unfortunate sisters are downwind, with bags of clothes pushed to their faces. Olive trees on the dry hillside lean in these famous paintings, leaving the direction of the wind not in question. Christ, if you believe the Italians, was like most white magicians, clean and well positioned. It's summer. Supper is finished, except for its odors. Before dusk begins, there is an hour of strong light, which would never offend the religious. It's in this light that I look up at the bleached screen. There in the silence, students fall before machines. It's as if they are the faint of the mass healing. In a suburb of the city, there is a mound of bodies which will be burned. The death is a bearded man spilling from a coffin, dressed in a black gown in Tehran. If death is a woman, then her hem will drag over the ground. Never forget. Oh yeah, I have some other books too that I didn't show and I don't want to forget. Big John Berryman fan. Norman Dubie turned me on to John Berryman's Interlibrary Loan. Them. I'd rather just go buy another book. A lot of my books are in Toledo, Ohio, and I might not ever get them back. That's why I'm so late to this. Now, yeah, I'm going to do some preparation and come back. And so I'm not just wasting time going, oh, look at this poem. I like to read some Anne Sexton. Maybe I should start with Emily Dickinson and Walt Whitman, eh? That'd be a good place to start. Okay, I'll be back. Welcome back, or welcome to my channel. I've been putting off this tag for a month. I know, because I commented on Brian's video, which I'll link below. But I've got all the books ready now, and I'm not so sure about the superhero angle of it. I know I was into Batman and comics and Spider-Man, but I'll try to answer the questions as best I can. At least this got me back into poetry. I do reading it. I go through spurts and phases, but I'd like to keep up on poetry more. I subscribed, it's been probably 3 years, to American Poetry Review. But so the question one is, what is the first poem you remember? And it's probably, one from my mother's lips or my grandfather's, with the Old King Cole, was Merry Old Soul, or do your ears hang low? Do they follow? Do they waddle to and fro? Can you tie 'em in a knot? Can you tie 'em in a bow? Or combed his hair with a wagon wheel, died with a toothache in his heel. Illiterate. My grandfather was off the boat, but he knew some good stories. And like question two, what was your first favorite poem? I'm just going to read from Leaves of Grass and from Emily Dickinson. I'm going to just pick one from random. You can, a trick with Emily is to read her poems to the tune of The Yellow Rose of Texas. So I'm just going to try it once more. 102. Could I but write indefinite as doth the wit meadow be, and visit only where I like, and no man visit me, and flirt all day with buttercups and marry whom I may, and dwell a little everywhere, or better run away. And I said, but just to be upon a raft of air, and row it nowhere all day long, and anchor off the bar. What liberty so captures them who tied in dungeons are, and then whatever. Till I should jump peninsulas to get away from you. No, let's do the final one. And no police to follow or chase me if I do. Till I should jump peninsulas to get away from you. Like that. It's funny. I'll put in that poem. And just to pick out another one, from Leaves of Grass. Let's see. Because you can just, I've studied Leaves of Grass. The first thing you do is get a lexicon, because, the language from the 19th century and Civil War. Now, in honor of Brian, I should read one of his Civil War poems from here. There's many to pick from. Captain, oh Captain. I'll just pick one out. Okay, yeah, this is good. This edition, I do not despise you, priests. My faith is the greatest of faiths and the least of faiths, enclosing all worship, ancient and modern, and all between ancient and modern, believing I shall come again upon the earth after 5,000 years, waiting responses from oracles, honoring the gods, saluting the sun, making a fetish of the first rock or stump, powwowing with sticks in the circle of obis, helping the lama or Brahmin as he trims the lamps of the idols, dancing yet through the streets of a prolific procession, wrapped in azure in the woods, a gymnosophist, drinking mead from the skull cup, a Shasta and Vedas admirant, minding the Quran, walking Teocallis, spotting with gore from the knife, from the stone and knife, beating the serpent skin drum, accepting the Gospels, accepting him that was crucified, knowing assuredly that he is divine. To the mass kneeling, to the Puritans' prayer rising, sitting patiently in a pew, ranting and frothing in my insane crisis, waiting dead-like till my spirit arouses me, looking forth on pavement and land, and outside of pavement and land, belonging to the winders of the circuit of circuits that is known. It is time to explain myself. Let us stand up. What is known I strip away. I launch all men and women forward with me into the unknown. Eternity lies in bottomless reservoirs. Its buckets are rising forever and ever. They pour and they exhale away. So yes, welcome back. I'm beginning to think that this will have to be in 2 parts, maybe 3. I'm going to blast out questions or answers to 2, 3, and 4. What was your first favorite poem? Again, like my memories of my mother and my grandfather. Like that, I'm going to read one more from Walt Whitman. And then move on to greatest poem I've ever read. Probably Rumi, The Guest House. I could have said Shakespeare, but Rumi comes before Shakespeare. And 4, what poet have you read the most? Besides Doobie, probably Yeats and John Berryman. So I'll read from them as well. On and on. Let's see. Let me read The Guest House from Rumi real quick like. Well, we don't have to be quick. Like I said, it's going to be in 2 parts, maybe 3. The Guest House by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Each morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes. It's an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. A dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Let me get into some Yeats now. He's probably the poet I know most. When you are old. When you are old and gray and full of sleep and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read and dream of the soft look your eyes had once and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace and loved your beauty with love false or true? But one man loved the pilgrim soul in you and loved the sorrows of your changing face. And bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly how love fled and paced upon the mountains overhead and hid his face amid a crowd of stars. He wishes for the cloths of heaven. Had I the heavens embroidered cloths and wrought with gold and silver light, the blue and the dim and the dark cloths of night and light and the half light, I would spread the cloths under your feet. But I, being poor, have only my dreams. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams. Reconciliation. This is a Maud Gunn poem, along with like No Second Troy and Words and many others. But reconciliation. Some may have blamed you that you took away the verses that could move them on the day when the ears being deafened, the sight of the eyes blind with lightning, you went from me, and I could find nothing to make a song about but kings, helmets, and swords, and half-forgotten things that were like memories of you, but now well out, for the world lives as long ago, and while we're in our laughing, weeping fit, hurl helmets, crowns, and swords into the pit. But dear, cling close to me, since you were gone. My barren thoughts have chilled me to the bone. That's a Golden Dawn magic poem, too. There's all kinds of symbols in reconciliation from the helmets and swords. Those are actually, but I digress. Sailing to Byzantium, the first part is where Cormac McCarthy got his title. Sailing to Byzantium. That is no country for old men. The young in one another's arms, birds and trees, those dying generations at their song, the salmon falls, the mackerel crowded seas, fish, flesh, and fowl command all summer long. Whatever is begotten, born, and dies, caught in that sensual music, all neglect, monuments of an aged intellect. It's a long poem. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to end with Under Ben Bulben, where Yeats accurately predicted his own death and where his remains would lay under his death. So I'll read the first and sixth last stanza. Under Ben Bulben, 1. Swear by what the sages spoke round the martyr lake, that the witch of Atlas knew, spoke and set the cocks a-crow. Swear by those horsemen, by those women, complexion and form prove superhuman, that pale long visage company, that airs and immortality, completeness of thy passions won. Now they ride the wintry dawn, where Ben Bulben sets the scene. Hear the guess of what they mean. Under bare Ben Bulben's head, in Drumcliff churchyard Yeats is laid. An ancestor was rector there. Long years ago, a church stands near. By the road, an ancient cross, no marble, no conventional phrase, no limestone quarried near the spot. By his command, these words were cut. Cast a cold eye on life, on death. Horsemen pass by. So great. And let me knock out the John Berryman songs. He lived in Dublin off and on many times and wrote dream songs. He was very heavily influenced by Yeats. He met Yeats at least a couple times. John Berryman is an interesting fellow. One of the confessional poets, along with Anne Sexton and Sylvia Plath, Robert Lowe, Elizabeth Bishop is in there. I'm going to read one of my favorite all-time poems that I want on my gravestone, if I have a gravestone, which I want. I'm being cremated, but is One Art by Elizabeth Bishop. And let me, we'll wait on John Berryman. I'm going to read Elizabeth Bishop right now. And I had to write it out. I've written this poem out several times. It's called One Art. It's a villanelle. The art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with the intent to be lost, that their loss is no disaster. Lose something every day, except the fluster of lost door keys, the hour badly spent. The art of losing isn't hard to master. Then practice losing farther, losing faster, places and names and where it was you meant to travel. None of these will bring disaster. I lost my mother's watch, and look, my next to last of 3 loved houses went. The art of losing isn't hard to master. I lost 2 cities, lovely ones, and vaster. Some realms I owned, 2 rivers, a continent. I missed them, but it wasn't a disaster. Even losing you, the joking voice, a gesture I love. I shan't have lied. It's evident the art of losing's not hard to master, though it may look like, write it, like disaster. Oh, I love that poem. Now let me finish up with some John Berryman, or at least finish up this part. I still have Anne Sexton to go and Thomas Lutz and some modern, postmoderns, but this is Berryman from Dream Songs, number 6. He had his own rhyming schemes, and he was a genius, I think. But anyway, 26. The glories of the world struck me, made me aria once. What happened then, Mr. Bones, if B.U. cares to say? Henry became interested in women's bodies. His lines were the scene of stupendous achievement. Stupor, knees, dear, pray. All the knobs and softness of, my God, the duckling in trouble, and swum on Henry at one time. What happens then, Mr. Bones? He seems excited like. Fell Henry back into the original crime. Art, rhyme, besides a sense of others. My God, and a jealousy for the honor, alive, of his country. What can get more odd and discontent with the thriving gangs and pride? What happened then, Mr. Bones? I had a most marvelous piece of luck. I died. Now, I should have mentioned that Henry is a persona that he's an alcoholic writer, and Mr. Bones is a how do you say this? He's in blackface. The writing is not prejudice in any way whatsoever. He's a character, Mr. Bones. I think he's a black man in blackface, but anyway, I studied Dream Songs, like 20 years ago, so you're going to have to, I wish I had my own book, which is in a box in Toledo, Ohio, or it's with the vapors, meaning thrown away. Like dust in the wind, huh? I don't know about you, but I've lost so many books. Here's John Berryman, number 49. It's called Blind. Sometimes he does title his poems. Old pussycat, if you won't eat, he don't feel good to his tongue. Old pussycat, he wants to have eaten. Tremor heaves. He sweat earrings. He can't. A dizzy swims of where is Henry at? Somewhere staying with Bowden. How come he sleeps and sleeps and sleeps, waking like death? Locate the restorations of where we hear as of profound sleep. From daylight, he got main tracked. From friend's breath, wishes, his hopings. Dreams make crawl with fear, Henry, but not get up. The course's mind, his body sear. Poor pussycat, in weakness and disorder. We'll see him down, whiskers and tail. Waist drift. Oh, one of cunning wives know that. He hoardly squander. Where is nor downtown? Neither suburbia. Braille. Dream Song 65. A freaking ankle crabbed his blissful trips. His whiskey tastes like California, but is Kentucky. Like Berkeley, where he truly worked at it, but nothing broke all night. No fires. One dawn crowded his luck. Flowed down along the cliffs to the Big Sur, where Henry Miller's box is vomit green, and Henry bathed in sulfur, lovely, hot over the sea, like Senator Cat, relaxed and sober, watery as Tripoli, sir. No Christmas jaunts for fractured cats. Hot dog, the world is places where we will not go. This winter tide, or again, the striding edge, block when the sun is then, when Henry was his mystery was 2 and 20. High on the hog. I'll read 66 too. All virtues enter into this world. A Buddhist, doused in the street, serenely burned. A Secretary of State for War, winked it over, screwed a red-haired whore. Monsieur Capabella mourned. What a week. A journalism doggy took a leak against a scomding coon. But take one virtue without which a man can hardly hold his own. The sun is the willow, shivers itself, and shakes itself, green, yellow. Abba Pennon groaned over the telephone when asked what that was. How feel a fellow then would he arrive, in fame but lost, but affable, top shelf, well sad man. He hardly knew himself in that a man. Henry grew hot, got laid, felt bad, survived, should always reproach himself. Now these poems are hard to, you really have to read them some too to get the rhyme scheme, and this was a Vietnam poem. I don't know if you got the crux of it, or the gist of it, with, a Buddhist doused in the street, serenely burned. What a week, and there's a lot of things in quotations. But anyway, I don't do John Berryman justice there. And again, I have 77 dream songs. I don't have the final collected version of it. Okay, break number 2. I'm going to get back with Anne Sexton. I'd be remiss if I wouldn't read more John Berryman while I have the chance. So I'm just going to read a few more poems. Let me just say that Henry, the character Henry, is autobiographical on Berryman. Alcoholic, writer, poet, teacher, Irishman who lives in Ireland half the time. He's, teacher, has students. And then Mr. Bones is his friend who's a jazz musician sometimes in blackface, sometimes just a Negro friend. This is definitely like a 1950s style book, although it was published in 72. That's when it won the Pulitzer. So enough of let me just read here. There we go. Okay, this is one. Huffy Henry hid the day. Unappeasable Henry sulked. I see his point. Of trying to put things over. It was the thought that they thought they could do it made Henry wicked and away. But he should have come out and talked. All the world like a woolen lover once did seem on Henry's side. Then came a departure. Thereafter nothing fell out as it might or ought. I don't see how Henry, pried open for all the world to see, survived. What he has now to say is a long wonder the world can bear and be. Once in a sycamore, I was glad, all at the top, and I sang. Hard on the land wears the strong sea, and empty grows every bed. This is a jazz poem there. This is a pretty famous one. Dream Sonnet, or Song number 4. Dream Sonnet. Dream Song number 4. Filling her compact and delicious body with chicken paprika, she glanced at me twice. Fainting with interest, I hungered back, and only the fact of her husband and 4 other people kept me from springing on her or falling at her little feet and crying. You are the hottest one for years of night Henry's dazed eyes have enjoyed. Brilliance. I advanced upon despairingly my spumoni. Sir Bones is stuffed. the world with feeding girls. Black hair, complexion Latin, jeweled eyes downcast. The slob beside her feasts. What wonders is she sitting on over there? The restaurant buzzes. She might as well be on Mars. Where did it all go wrong? There ought to be a law against Henry. Mr. Bones, there is. And one last one, can indulge me. Where is it? I want to read it for Brian. No, where the heck is it? Oh, man. Okay, 36. The high ones die, they die. You look up and who's there? Easy, easy, Mr. Bones. I is on your side. I smell your grief. I sent my grief away. I cannot care forever. With them again and again I died and cried, and I have to live. Now there you exaggerate, sah. We have to die. That is our appointed task. Love and die. Yes, that makes sense. But what makes sense between, then? What if I rollin' and babblin' and brainin', brood on why and just sat on a fence? I doubt you did or do. The choice is lost. It's fool's gold, but I go in for that. The boy and the bear looked at each other. Man all is tossed and lost with groin wounds and grand bowls, cat. William Faulkner's where? Frost being still around. Tell me you can find the rhyme scheme in that poem. So yes, I was going to try and answer like 6. Female poet that you feel deserves more attention. There's some modern ones like Lynn Emanuel and Levertov, Denise Levertov. See, when I say modern, I'm thinking 20 years ago too that I was reading. But Anne Sexton is somebody who gets overshadowed by the confessional poets too. Especially Sylvia Plath. And I was going to read, I like her Flee on Your Donkey. I love The Truth the Dead Know, All the Pretty Ones, Sylvia's Death, but that's like a 1, 2, 3-page poem. Oh, Sylvia, Sylvia, with a dead box of stones and spoons, with 2 children, 2 meteors wandering loose in the tiny playroom, with your mouth into the sheet, into the roof beam, into the dumb prayer. Sylvia, Sylvia, where did you go after you wrote me from Devonshire about raising potatoes and keeping bees? What did you stand by? How did you lie down into thief? And she didn't hang herself. She meticulously taped up her doors and the bottom of the door of the children's room and, stuck her head in the oven, basically. The Ballad of the Lonely Masturbator is a good poem. No, I like form poems. It's not that long. Should I read it? Let me close out with Dylan Thomas, and then I'll find that Lux poem about ilk. And let me read The Ballad of the Lonely Masturbator. The end of the affair is always death. She's my workshop, slippery eye, out of the tribe of myself, my breath, finds you gone. I horrify those who stand by. I am fed. At night alone, I marry the bed. Finger to finger, now she's mine. She's not too far, she's my encounter. I beat her like a bell. I recline in the bower where you used to mount her. You borrowed me on the flowered spread. At night alone, I marry the bed. Take, for instance, this night, my love, that every single couple puts together, with a joint overturning beneath, above, the abundant two on sponge and feather, kneeling and pushing, head to head. At night alone I marry the bed. I break out of my body this way, an annoying miracle. Could I put the dream market on display? I am spread out, I crucify. My little plum is what you say. At night alone I marry the bed. Then my black-eyed rival came, the lady of water, rising on the beach, a piano at her fingertips, shame on her lips, and a flute's speech. And I was the knock-kneed groom instead. At night alone I marry the bed. She took you the way a woman takes a bargain dress off the rack, and I broke the way a stone breaks. I give back your books and fishing tack. Today's paper says that you are wed. At night alone I marry the bed. The boys and girls are one tonight. They unbutton blouses, they unzip flies. They take off shoes, they turn off the light. The glimmering creatures are full of lies. They are eating each other, they are overfed. At night alone I marry the bed. Ah, superb. Superb. The force that through the green fuse drives the flower, drives my green age. That blasts the roots of trees is my destroyer. And I am dumb to tell the crooked rose, my youth is bent by the same wintry fever. The force that drives the water through the rocks drives my red blood. That dries the mouthing streams turns mine to wax. And I am dumb to mouth into my veins how at the mountain spring the same mouth sucks. The hand that whirls the water in the pool stirs the quicksand, that ropes the blowing wind, howls my shroud sail. And I am dumb to tell the hanging man how at my clay is made the hangman's lime. The lips of time leach to the fountainhead. Love drips and gathers, but the falling blood shall calm her sores. And I am dumb to tell the weather's wind how time has ticked a heaven round the stars. And I am dumb to tell the lover's tomb how at my sheet goes the same crooked worm. Last, I will close with Hunchback in the Park. The hunchback in the park, a solitary mister, propped between trees and water. From the opening of the garden lock that lets the trees and water enter, until the Sunday somber bell at dark. Eating bread from a newspaper, drinking water from the chain cup that the children filled with gravel in the fountain basin where I sailed my ship, slept at night in a dog's kennel, but nobody chained him up. Like the park birds he came early, like the water he sat down. And mister, they called, hey mister, the truant boys from the town, running when he had heard them clearly, on out a sound. Past lake and rockery, laughing when he shook his paper, hunchback and mockery, through the loud zoo of the willow groves, dodging the park keeper with his stick that picked up leaves. The old dog sleeper, alone between nurses and swans, while the boys among willows made the tigers jump out of their eyes, to roar on the rockery stones, and the groves were blue with sailors. Made all day until bell time, a woman figure without fault, straight as a young elm, straight and tall from his crooked bones, that she might stand in the night after the locks and chains. All night in that unmade park, after the railings and shrubberies, the birds, the grass, the trees, the lake, and the wild boys innocent as strawberries, that followed the hunchback to his kennel in the dark. So, thank you, Brian. Thank you all. Great tag. I wish I could do it better justice. Wish I had my books so I'd be more organized, or if I had more time, I'd be more organized. So, wish you adieu. Have a good night.